Alright, good afternoon everyone. Today we are going to presentation about motor series for motor, presentation by group 4. At the group 4 consists of myself, Dhiksa Sudha P, Nur Miladiyah, Moch Agus Idris, Rivaldo Ramadan, and Muhammad Bagus Budi R.P. At the first, next please. Okay, let's talk about the introduction. As we know, basically LDC motor are classified into two main types based on the wiring of Medan coil and Haunted coil. Both of types of DC motor as separate DC motor resource as or separately the excited DC motor and DC motor self-power source or self-excited DC motor. DC motor power source itself can be recognized again into three types, namely DC shunt wound motor, DC series wound motor, and DC compound wound motor. The DC series wound motor is a motor that does not use permanent magnet, so the basic principle of the system is the same as permanent DC magnet. The only role of the permanent magnet is replaced by an electric coil. This type of motor also uses brushes as well. Next please. In the next, let's talk about the DC wound motor scheme. The series motor has good torque and top speed. As we can see by side of the description, in the DC series motor type, the Theron winding and the armature are connected in series with power supply, and then the same current flow in the field winding and dynamo winding. DC series wound motor are also referred to universal motors because these DC series motors can work with AC power supply or DC power supply. If we want to use AC electrical controller, we can use triac AC on one of the cable bases. Next please. In the next, we continued by my friend Rama Pradana.
Okay, next construction of series DC motor. Construction with DC motor is similar to any other types of DC motors in almost all aspects. It consists of all the fundamental components like the stator housing, the field winding or the rotor carrying, the armature conductor, and the other vital parts like the commutator or the brush segments are attached in the proper sequence as in the case of a generic DC motor. Next, working principle of a series 1 DC motor. In most aspects, the series 1 DC motor is similar to other forms of brush DC motor in structure and performance. It is composed of two vital parts, the rotor and stator, which interact magnetically and electrically to create rotational movement on an output shaft. The main, the main structure of DC motor is comparatively simple, and a simplified circuit diagram of them is presented below. Next. Next. And next, my friends, Rivaldo.
Okay. And then the stroke examining this diagram, it becomes obvious why these devices are introduced as series 1 DC motor. Their field coil is powered by the DC power source and is wired in a series arrangement with the armature winding. This means the electrical current that supplies the armature coil also support the field windings. To perform this effectively, the field winding is wound with just a few turns of great gauge wire so that it can tolerate the full armature current as well as the current of the stator and supply the minimum resistance possible. This is opposite to shut type, which where their field coil in parallel configuration with the armature, which generates different effect. If either the leads of the field coil or the rotor coil are swapped, this can result in the device reversing the rotation direction and makes this device reversible. Next. And then this direction motor, the series one control. The direction of the rotation of this series motor can be changed or reversed by changing the polarity of one of the reels, be it haunted or terrain rolls. It is important to remember that if you only change the polarity of the voltage, then it is the same as changing the polarity of both the coil, and the direction of the motor rotation will remain the same. Next, the speed regulation of series 1 DC motor. Unlike in the case of a DC sound motor, the DC series motor has very poor speed regulation. The Seri motor is unable to maintain its speed on adhesion of external load to the shaft. Let's us see why. When mechanical load is added to the shaft at any in the instance, the speed automatically reduces whatever be the type of motor. But the term speed regulation refers to the reduce whatever be the type of motor. But the term speed regulation refers to the reduce whatever be the type of motor. Ability of the motor to bring back the reduced speed to its original previous value with reasonable amount of time, but this motor is highly instead of doing that as with reduction in speed on addition of load. Next, my friend Idris, Moch Agus Idris.
Series 1 DC motor specification. There are some basic specifications that can help designer choose the right series DC motor model. And this article will briefly go through some of them. Note that DC motors have more specification than what is described in this section. And it only describes the central values that should be known in most cases. And the red nominal voltage. The red voltage describes the DC power supply needed to run the motor. This is the minimum value to be used, but a slightly higher value is also acceptable. Note that using a higher voltage may cause motor damage or burnout due to the large current in the field winding. So caution should be used when exceeding the rate voltage. And the next is brass life. These motors use mechanical commutation to connect the power supply to the armature windings. As a result, the carbon braces, which are the connecting points for this commutation, will eventually wear down and must be replaced periodically. Most DC motors provide the working life of the braces in use, and it is important to track how long the braces have been in use to prevent damage. And the next is continuous and peak power. The power of series DC motor, rated in HP or kilowatts, is the output energy provided by the motor. A series DC motor, when in continuous application, should be specified for its continuous power, as the peak power should be used in for short periods of time, such as in starting application. And the next speed range series DC motor, when their output self is unloaded, will continue to accelerate until they destroy themselves. This is consequence of wiring the valve winding in series with the armature and is the most concerning disadvantage of this motor. For this reason, this motor should never be run with no load attached to them under any current contents and should always be low. Most specifications provide a safe or maximum range of RPM that will not break this motor and should be carefully considered when choosing a motor model. And the next advance of motor series 1, number 1 is good torque and number 2 good top speed and next high power weight ratio and support up to 100 kilowatts power and the next is AC in controllers.
Next, this disadvantage of the Series 1 motor, very low efficiency, durability brush is not durable, less resistance when in prolonged use. Next. Application motor the Series 1. Due to the large coil found in its winding, this motor provides a great deal of starting torque at low speed. They are usually designed to produce the maximum starting torque possible and are often used as starter motor for other motors or in other industrial applications. Their nonlinear speed and increased starting torque has been used most effectively with large load such as cranes with winches and other machine which must move heavy load slowly and lighter load more rapidly. Next.
So that's all about our presentation about the DC Series 1 motor. Let me know if any question in the comment section below. And thank you for your attention. And good afternoon, everyone.